What's up? Hello, good afternoon, or whatever time of day you're working with. Today we're talking Thorogood boots. So my experience with Thorogood the brand started just this year actually. I was researching your classic mock toe and was debating Red Wing or Thorogood. I had recently found out about Thorogood. The more research I did, you know, their boots are over $200, so it's definitely a bit of an investment, and so I wanted to get the best boot option. The major reason that I went with Thorogood instead of Red Wing was the fact that online they said everywhere where Red Wing is double stitched, Thorogoods are triple stitched. They're also made in Wisconsin. They started in Milwaukee. How could I resist keeping it as local as possible and getting an American-made boot that is made in Wisconsin? I'm home up in Wisconsin. Right now they're made in Merrill, Wisconsin, and you can order them online. I've got some links below for where you can order all these different styles of boots, but otherwise you can almost always find a local dealer in your state as well. The first pair of Thorogoods that I ever got were these mock toes. I wanted them in the classic tobacco finish. It's got the classic wedge heel that's going to give you a lot of comfort if you're on your feet all day long. A mock toe in front, some of the classic signifiers of the Thorogood boots, including the embossed insignia over here in the leather and the made in the USA little flag tag. They've got this slip and oil resistant bottoms to give you some good traction while you're doing whatever you're doing. Obviously they're work boots, so I think they were originally designed to be scaling like telephone poles. You need a good amount of traction to be able to do that, and they're also great for like warehouses and stuff like that. I'm out of my element here. I do web development. But they were perfect for a motorcyclist because they've got that traction, they've got the reinforced toe and both the arch support and the ankle support that you need to keep yourself both safe in the event of maybe an accident, but also more common than not, you need the ankle support because you can easily lose your footing a little bit. You can slip up if you don't have good traction, but then you can easily just kind of roll your ankle. And if you're in just a traditional sneaker or anything that has an exposed ankle or no support there, you could injure yourself, you could lose your footing and harm your bike. You could do a lot of crazy unnecessary stuff just because you didn't quite have that second line of defense to keep yourself nice in line. These have been a great addition to my collection, and actually they've been a fantastic replacement for one of the boots that I used to ride in. So I regret to say that I did used to ride in these boots, and now they do have the arch support. They've got a closed toe because it'd be foolish not to have your toes covered at all, but I've seen it. I've seen flip-flops, I've seen it all. But what they really didn't have is the traction. And not only did they just not come with any sort of anti-slip or gritty bottom, I also just wore them enough that it just completely wore away. One false step and I definitely could have, I had some scares when I thought that I was going to tip over on my bike. You know, you're on a little bit of gravel and you're on something slick and then you can topple over. This is probably more common for female riders than for male riders, but fashion boots just don't have the traction you need to stay safe, keep yourself safe and keep your bike safe. It's just not worthwhile to wear boots that don't have thicker sole or a more corrugated sole or something that'll give you that contact that you need with the ground. I incredibly discourage things like this. Honestly, even just in everyday life, like if you don't want to be falling all the time, it's good to have some traction on your boots. These ones, I think I've kind of worn them into the ground, and unfortunately I cannot replace the sole on these. It has the look of being stitched on, but it's actually just glued on, and it would cost me like more than half the price of the boots to get them resoled. So these guys are going to be retired and they're just not doing their job anymore. One thing I like about these boots is the fact that they're really quick on-off because you start with the eyelet laces up here and then it switches to hook grommets. I should really learn the terms for this. And you just wind it up the shoe and you're good to go. These ones are also really comfortable because of this little padding back here. So I would often wear them even without boot socks. I would wear them with regular ankle socks or whatever I wanted, and I didn't have to worry about this portion of the shoe rubbing. And on the topic of rubbing and breaking them in, these boots were a really quick break-in. I've had Doc Martens. These Doc Martens, to be precise, the 1460s, they're like my first real pair of work boot slash combat boot type thing. These are the patent leather Doc Martens. They've got good traction on the bottom. They are a little bit water resistant, so I would ride a lot in these. To some extent, it depends on the bike that I was riding. They are just brutal to break in. I had countless blisters. I broke them in on college campus, so that probably didn't help at all. I would wear 2 pairs of socks, or I would wear tights and then socks, because that's kind of one of the tips that I had gotten. I don't know if it's a wives' tale or if it's really true, but apparently people in the military will wear like stockings or nylons and then the socks, so that it gives it something else for the boot to wear away on during the break-in period instead of just chewing up your ankle. So these ones were a process to break in, and they're definitely broken in now. They really don't look much different than the day I got them. They've worn down the heel a little bit in an asymmetrical way, and there's some like wrinkling here, but the boots are really holding up regardless of the fact that I've not really taken great care of them, unfortunately. The Thorogoods, the break-in period was super quick. I think I remember just having 1 or 2 days where it was a little bit sore. First full day that I wore them was at Mama Tried Motorcycle Show. There was a lot of walking around, walking through vendors and looking at bikes, and so it wasn't just a day at the office, it was me doing a lot of walking. Even the day on the bike, you might get some like rubbing on the back of your ankle, but it's not quite the same movement as walking in the boots. After just maybe a day or 2 of walking around with them, they felt broken in, and I don't have any blistering now, or maybe I've just gotten calloused enough feet that it doesn't really matter. I'm accustomed to blisters. Like I said, I used to Irish dance, and blisters were a way of life then. But I think I still have pretty soft skin, and so the break-in period was really not bad with these guys. Now, I had started posting on Instagram in my new Thorogoods, and once it warmed up enough for me to be riding around in them, and they were my go-to riding boot. I really didn't wear anything else. They saw me in them, saw me enjoying them, and then now I've become a Thorogood ambassador. So these next 2 pairs of boots were sent to me. So the first pretty exciting pair are the Tomahawks, and they're your classic leaned out combat boot. This was like a style that I always liked. They go with everything. It's great because they're not nearly as bulky as the mock toes. The mock toes just have a little bit of a different look. They obviously have that wedge and the support you need, so they're super comfortable. These are really comfortable as well, but they just have like a leaner shape. It's all a matter of preference. And these ones are like buttery soft and amazing, and then they still have that great traction on bottom. So this is the polyped bottom, and all of the bottoms of the boots are made in the USA too, so they're not imported. So these, I'd say there's almost like no break-in period, or just a day of break-in, because the first time I wore these, I was riding to Holy Hill, and I was doing some riding, doing some walking. My feet were a little bit sore during that, just like, you know, a little bit of rubbing on the ankles, but again, it was such a quick break-in. They both are very like soft leather. So I love these. These have almost become I think they've become my go-to boot, because I tend to wear mostly black and black accessories. Just because they're a little bit more lean, they can work well for more of a business casual setting. I work in an office, so these work great to kind of cruise that middle ground and not look too kind of workwear. Now, the last pair that I have here are the newest pair, so I've only really worn these 2 times. These are another pair of mock toes, but they're a little bit different. They're not as soft of a leather. They're more, I'd say they're almost a little bit more water resistant, and they're just like a firmer boot. But they are really similar to the other mock toes with a couple key distinctions. Other than like the finish of the leather, this is just like a harder leather, a less porous leather, got a slightly different sheen. It's a little bit more rich and less of that, it shows a little bit less of the wear than this pair does. This one, you really like get the different tones in the leather, and it's way softer. But a key distinction, they're very similar boot. This pair doesn't have the pull tab in the back, or the tab in the back for pulling the shoe on. It also doesn't have the little kind of comfort liner back here, so it ends up having a slightly shorter profile than this boot. and it has a slightly shorter sole on the mock toe. So this one is just all around a little bit taller, a little bit bulkier, and this one's a little bit sleeker and harder. Has a shorter wedge. They actually have slightly different soles as well. This one is a softer sole and this one's a little bit firmer. This one's neoprene. I'm not sure if this one's the same construction, but they're both like oil resistant and have some really great traction on them. So I'd say that this one is a little bit more uncomfortable to break in. It's similar to the Doc Marten where it's kind of got that patent finish, or closer to a patent finish. This one's definitely a matte shoe, but it's got that like firmer feel, almost like a, not quite a rubber boot, but kind of similar. And because it doesn't have that little comfort liner up top, I definitely recommend wearing this boot with a boot sock. There's a little bit of rubbing on the back of the calf. I haven't had any like blistering or anything like that, but I just definitely like feel the contact of this part of the boot like touching the back of my calf when I'm only wearing shorter socks, which I'm sure a lot of people would be like,
duh, you gotta wear boot socks with boots.
But with these ones you really can kind of wear whatever socks you want. And then these ones are soft enough that there's just no abrasion on your calf. It's just gonna nicely mold to it. Is a little bit more skin-like.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Another distinction on this one is it doesn't have the perfect wedge sole. It's got a little bit of an arch along the side, so we can kind of compare the silhouette of these. It's a matter of preference. People say that if it's a full wedge, it's a little bit more comfortable, but I haven't found any differences in the arch support. That's one great thing about all these shoes is they have really fantastic arch support. When you get cheaper shoes or shoes that are made by maybe someone like Steve Madden or like those mid-range, or even at places like Target, they're not constructed nearly as well. You can't replace the sole on them, and they almost always don't have any like shock absorption or arch support. Like these shoes are just, there's no padding, there's no shock absorption. This literally feels like walking on a piece of wood. You don't get the value out of the shoes. They're cheaper up front, but in the long run, they're not worth the cost. If you're doing anything where you need this kind of support or you need the kind of protection, you really can't skimp on it. There's even more protective motorcycle shoes. I'm not going to say that these are the safest option out there, but if you're someone like me and you just want to wear the thing that you're most likely to wear, the thing that's going to be stylish and not too crazy looking, not like track shoes and things like that, those are obviously the safest option. They can provide some shin protection and even more support, and in the event of a crash, like your feet are 100% protected and they're gonna survive it, and the shoe itself is probably gonna survive it. But if you want something that, you know, is great for every day and is gonna look fantastic on your bike, especially if you kind of like the more retro look or the cafe racer look like I do, these kinds of boots are really fantastic. So I've had a great experience with Thorogood. I chose them from the beginning because I knew it was going to be a marker of quality. There's a lot of different camps of Red Wing versus Thorogood, but I think, you know, any of those classic 100-plus-year-old brands of American-made shoes are really fantastic investment, and they're going to last you a long, long time. And you can get them resold, you can treat them with oils and stuff, and you can really get a lot of life out of these boots. So thanks for joining me for this little boot discussion. I'm really passionate about shoes, and I think we can blame my mother for that. Hopefully you got a little bit of information, and if you were debating what kind of boots to get, I hope this gave you a little bit of insight into the quality of Thorogoods and the variety of styles. All of these styles that I've been showing you go down small enough into women's sizes. Not all of their shoes are small enough. They're in men's sizes typically, and so I'm a women's 7, so I ended up getting a men's 5, and I think that might be just about the smallest size or close to it. So if you didn't know that they carry sizes small enough that women can wear, now you do, and now you know that I recommend them. So if you're interested in buying a pair online, you can check the link. I've got a couple of resources for tracking down some of the shoes. Yeah, I'll see you next time.